What's up, everybody? Welcome back. We're here with some DraftKings MMA DFS picks. Lineup advice: UFC Austin, Calvin Kattar, Josh Emmett. Lineup strategies, tips, bets, parlays, whatever you need. We're here. Props, everything. FanDuel, DraftKings, Sportsbooks. I'm Brian Jester, co-founder here at Occupy Fantasy. Welcome. Joined by Jake the Snake, owner of MMADFS.com. Jake, what's up, man?
A lot, man. Fun tournament slate. We actually have more than like 11 fights. Hopefully we don't lose any. Fingers crossed.
That's a little ominous considering one of the fights on this card was canceled post-lock last time. And for the ceremonial weigh-in, one of the participants in that fight did not show up due to cramps. We're, of course, referencing the Donald Cerrone and Joe Lozon fight. Jake, fingers crossed, man. Let's hope let's hope they actually go off this time.
I just hope that Joe is just messing with Donald here. He's like, oh, yeah, you got food poisoning last time? I got cramps. I'm not going to be at the weigh-in. So how's that feel?
Can you imagine Twitter if somehow this gets canceled post-lock, though?
Oh, my God. It might be the end of like MMA DFS.
Actually, like legitimately might be. So, all right, we're here to not end MMA DFS. We're going to talk about the main event, Kattar versus Emmett, what it means for DFS and betting. Talk about the one newcomer on this card. Everyone loves the good fighter, good matchup, bad matchup game. So we'll continue that with 5 or 6 fighters who don't have a ton of UFC time under their belt. We'll talk about a fight you want to target in DFS, so stick around for that. Our favorite prize pick plays. See the promo code here. Occupy 100% deposit match bonus at prize picks. A really soft line this week. Again, stick to the end of the video. You'll want to stick around for that. And then we'll close it out with our stream parlay of the week, which felt like we got screwed last time, Jake, but we'll leave that in the rearview mirror and let's move on to this slate. So let's start with the main event. Calvin Kattar, Josh Emmett. Very interesting fight from just a real life perspective, but also for DFS. So break it down for me. What does it mean, FanDuel, DraftKings, bets?
Yeah, I mean, I think we had that run where we had all those main events where they just felt like they were kind of like 3 round fights, and now we're back to these, exciting, brawling, high volume, potentially 5 round main events. I think this is going to be a good one. I mean, it's a perfect one to have in front of the live crowd. So I see why they did this in Austin. We've got Cater coming off maybe his best win ever, against Chikadze. Super high volume, filled up the stat sheet. He came into that fight as a dog and looked great. Put up a career best DFS score, which will obviously have the field higher on him now. He's 34 years old. He still holds the dubious honors of absorbing the most significant strikes in any fight in UFC history against Max Holloway when he took 445. So, he's still got that going for him. He's going against Josh Emmett, who has a different record. He's tied for the most knockdowns in featherweight UFC history at 11. We got those two things, which I would say combined, that definitely makes Emmett look a little bit better when you've got those two records in his favor. But it seems like everyone's on Cater, and I can't blame him. I mean, he looked really good. He's got good boxing, higher volume. Emmett's been kind of relying on his power, knockout, generally knockout or bust. Back in the day, a little bit more grappling mixed in, but lately he's just been reliant on landing knockdowns, landing knockouts. And then he's 37 years old and had knee surgery before his last fight, so he's got a couple red flags over there. But either way, I think it's going to be a high volume one that likely goes the distance. So we should see both guys having pretty solid floors. If it does end early, we were talking about it earlier, probably going to be Emmett landing a knockout. Cater hasn't really been finishing anybody. He's been going to a bunch of 5 round decisions. Look at his last 3 fights. They all went the distance in 5 round decisions. So pretty good chance that we either see it go the distance or we see Emmett knock Cater out, which is pretty unlikely considering Cater has never been knocked out in his 28 fight career. So pretty good chance we see this one go the distance. And pretty good chance that we see a lot of striking volume. We don't think we're going to see much grappling, even though, Emmett's got a wrestling background. Cater, we did see him grapple more against Chikadze. I'm pretty sure that was game plan specific. Chikadze is a one-dimensional kickboxer. So I think we're going to see this play out entirely on the feet. I think we're going to see a good amount of volume. And we talked about it a little bit before, but I mean, we go over it in the plug. You can read all my stuff there. There are some reasons for concern with Cater. Just if you look at his past scoring, that he might get basically priced out of the winning lineup, where that's not a concern for Emmett at his price. But if we see a lower scoring slate, Kattar could still get there without putting up a slate breaking score. So I think he could borderline be kind of on the fringe of making the winning lineup, but I think he does have a really solid floor. And if he really goes off, then I think he has a high ceiling. So I think there's a good chance you want one of these guys in tournament lineups. And I think for low risk, you definitely want to stack it on DraftKings and play both in low risk contests. So I think that's everything.
Love that. And I was just going to ask you about the stacking and low risk. Like you said, there have been some slates recently where that hasn't been the case, but this is a classic stack the fight in low risk contest, 50-50s, double ups head to heads, guarantee a high score, and probably a pretty decent score from the loser as well. True or false, Jake? If Emmett wins, he is more likely to be in the optimal than Kattar when he wins.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, based on price alone,
Cool. Got that. Okay, let's move on to the newcomers here. It's just one on the card, Natalia Silva, who hasn't fought in a couple of years. Got a matchup here with Jasmine, Jazz the Vicious. But Silva, we like some of the stuff that we saw on tape here, but give me the rundown. What type of fighter is she, and what kind of chances does she have of getting the upset in this matchup?
Yeah, so it's been 2.5 years since she last fought. She broke her arm. She's the former Jungle Fight flyweight champion. Amazingly, even though she hasn't fought in 30 months, she's still just 25 years old, which is pretty crazy. She fought Marina Rodriguez when she was just 20. Didn't do great, lost a decision. That's her only loss in her last 10 fights. But she didn't get finished. I mean, Rodriguez was 30 at the time, like grown ass woman
Yeah.
fighting this 20-year-old kid. And I mean, she beat her up. She kneed her in the face, split her open. Silva was basically pulled guard 25 times trying to get the fight to the mat. And Rodriguez just was like, nah, we're not going there.
Yeah.
Just kicking at her the whole time. But pretty promising grappler. And honestly, I thought her boxing looked a lot better in her last fight. Like, she'd been really reliant on kicks leading up to that, which she's a pretty good kicker. She'll throw a lot of high kicks, but she really mixed in her hands more in the last one, which, I thought that was a good sign of things to come, that she's showing improvement. It's been so long. I'm guessing that she's gotten even better. You can check out her Instagram. Like, she looks pretty good just hitting the bag. Physically, I thought she looked good. And she's landed 6 straight submissions. So she's kind of an armbar specialist, but she actually does have striking. Her wrestling didn't look super great, just in terms of like her takedown accuracy. Like, she's pretty comfortable off her back and working towards arm bars, but that's sort of the extent of her grappling on the mat, although maybe that's improved as well. But I think that she's going to have the striking advantage in this fight. She's going against a one-dimensional wrestler. So from a matchup perspective, she's probably going to be better on the feet. She's going to be a danger on the mat, and her opponent's going to be looking to take her to the ground. So she should get ample opportunity to look for arm bars. I think all but one of her wins have come early. So for DFS, obviously that's great. If she gets a finish here, she's really cheap. It's hard to see her getting left out. So I think she's a pretty promising prospect. And, it's always tough when you're making your debut. So, I mean, if she loses this fight, we're going to be right back on her in her next fight. But I think she definitely has a shot at winning this and landing a submission.
For sure, and lots of great points there. And yeah, this is a bad spot for her against Jazz the Vicious, who is making her second UFC fight. We know we love to target those spots. But a lot of things working in Silva's favor here, just as a pure DFS play. You mentioned the ceiling, obviously, if she gets a submission. But likely to go 3 rounds. Lots of different ways she can win if she stays on her feet and she has a submission game. And the one thing I will say, we're not too keen on fighters having multiple years off. But Jake, I got to say, if it's going to be someone, at least be a young fighter, because then there's plenty of time for them to make improvements. And we see it all the time where it's like, wow, we never saw that on tape. But yeah, they were only 23 the last time we saw them on tape. So lots of things in Silva's favor, and especially for low risk and small field concepts, I think she offers a lot of positives in rostering her.
Yeah, I mean, I was telling you earlier, I was getting Melissa Gatto vibes from her. So we'll see if that works out.
Sounds good. So speaking of Jazz the Vicious, who is her opponent, we'll go to everyone's favorite game. Good fighter, good opponent, bad opponent, or good matchup, bad matchup. We'll start from the top of the salary range to the bottom. These are fighters that have like 3 or less fights. No hard and fast rules here. We make it up as we go. But we don't have a ton of data on them, at least not a ton of stats. So I'm going to ask Jake if they're a good fighter or a bad fighter, and if this matchup is good or bad. Hopefully this game helps give you just a quick glance at some of these unknown fighters and what their potential can be. So starting from the top, Gloria DePaula against Maria Oliveira. We'll go with both fighters, DePaula and Oliveira.
Yeah, I'm still going to go bad fighter in DePaula. Great matchup.
And what about the flip side?
Bad fighter. I guess good matchup.
Is any matchup good if you're bad?
I mean, like it's not a grappler, So I mean, if it was a grappler, it's a bad matchup,
True.
Oliveira's a Muay Thai striker, so DePaula is pretty much a striker. She's looking to grapple a little bit more based on her last fight, but I mean, Oliveira wants a striking matchup. It should be mostly a striking matchup. So I mean,
Okay.
yeah, I don't know. That's my explanation.
All right, fair enough. What about Jazz the Vicious, who we just talked about?
So I don't think we can call her a good fighter because she's so one dimensional with a wrestler. And I don't think we can call it a good matchup because she's going against a submission specialist. But from a scoring perspective, I think it's a good matchup because she's going against an opponent who has no problem going to her back. So it could be one of those fights where she lands a bunch of takedowns because Silva is just like, yeah, come on down, I'll armbar you. But if she doesn't armbar, maybe Jazz Devicious gets 10 takedowns.
Fair enough. Very fair. So a high risk, high reward, good matchup. We'll put it that way.
Right.
Scrolling on down, we got Albert Duraev.
Yeah. I can't call him a good fighter because he looks super hittable and he has a low fight IQ and he struggles with his takedowns. But I would say he's a high upside fighter, and this is a good matchup for that high upside to hit.
Fair enough. All right. Let's see. Let's keep scrolling. Jeremiah Wells.
Yeah, that's a terrible matchup. He's been a good fighter so far. We haven't seen his cardio. If we see his cardio and it looks terrible, then I think we're going to be calling him a questionable fighter.
Fair enough. But the people only see the 111 and the 96 on his game log, so therefore he is a good fighter in most people's eyes, right? So, uh,
Right, right.
all right. What about Kutataladze, who I think surprisingly got the win in his debut?
Yeah, I do think he's a good fighter. Maybe not from a DFS perspective, just because he's kind of low volume and he's seems like a pure striker. He's not going to get a lot of grappling. But I think from an actual fighting perspective, he's a good fighter. But I think it's a really bad matchup.
Fair enough. And then I think that's it. Yeah, we got them all. All right, cool. Good game. Fun. Hope you guys learned something from that. Let's move on to a fight we want to target in DFS. Maybe some fighters, a fighter that we haven't talked about yet. Jake, which side do you think? I mean, I think probably the obvious one here is Cerrone and Lozon, right? Like whoever wins that probably scores really well. Who's going to win it? Yeah, flip a coin, right? But aside from that one, maybe a fight that you think that might go under the radar that whoever scores well is likely in the optimal.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. That one seemed so obvious I didn't even include it. But I think the Duraev Buckley one is a good one to have both sides because I think it's going to be either Duraev gets Buckley down and goes to work on the ground or Buckley knocks him out. I think it's a pretty straightforward outcome. So I think you're going to want the winner in that one.
Fair enough. All right, Prize Picks plays. We alluded to it earlier. Jake, let's just go with the one line that stands out to us that just makes zero sense. He is 9,400 on DraftKings. Doesn't have any grappling, at least hasn't used any grappling. This should be a stand-up battle, but Adrian Yanez's line on Prize Picks legitimately makes no sense to me.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was telling you, like, I would bet that he sets a career high in significant strikes landed in this fight. And then I immediately went to Prize Picks to check it. And I was like, yeah, I'll bet 101 over. And it was 63. And I was like, all right, sweet. I do get to bet this. And I get it on significantly lower than I was willing to get in at. So, yeah, Yana is over 63 and a half significant strikes. Seems like a crazy line. I mean, he landed 64 against Randy Costa when he landed an early second round finish. He landed 100 against Davey Grant in his recent decision. I don't know where they came up with this line, but definitely hammer the over on Yanez over 63 and a half significant strikes. He doesn't even need to win the fight. He just needs to basically get past the middle of round two, more or less.
I am pretty sure they just averaged his significant strikes over 4 fights. That's the only explanation here.
Right. It's insane.
All right, so use promo code Occupy. Links in the description below at Prize Picks. Pair that up with literally any other prop that you like, and that's some good expected value there. So we'll close it out with our stream parlay of the week, where we each pick a side, we parlay it together. Jake's favorite bets are written up in the daily plug. All of his bets are in his premium content at MMADFS.com. So if you're in a legal sports betting state, go check that out. Jake, I will go with. Actually, no, wait. Tell me your side first. I've been going first, and we haven't been winning. So let's switch it up. You go first, and I'll follow up.
I think that's smart. I'm going to take a safer one this week. I'm going to go Ismagulov by decision at plus 125.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. I will go. I will go Gloria DePaula inside the distance.
Nice. take advantage of that good matchup.
Yeah, you talked me into it with that. So we don't know if she's a good fighter or not. I still think she's a pretty good fighter just based on the tape we watched. But given the matchup, we have to go there. So what does that pay out for us if we parlay it together?
It's gonna be plus 845. And I think the book's still out on her, you know. I thought she was a good striker coming into the UFC, needed work on the grappling. She's still young, you know, she's got a good team at Shoot a Box down in Brazil. I think she's an improving fighter. And I think after this fight, people very well might be like, oh yeah, she's pretty good.
Yeah, a matchup like this will do that, right? So, all right, so that'll do it for this video. Appreciate you staying until the end. As always, make sure you follow Jake on Twitter at DFS_MMA. Go read his work, MMADFS.com, where he breaks down every fight from a betting and DFS perspective. Has premium content with more betting and more DFS information. Valuable. Go check it out. The archive at MMADFS.com. Incredibly valuable resource where you can check out all the historical slate data, ownership, historical money lines, winning optimal lineups. I mean, just an incredible resource. I use it every single week to shape my approach. So go check that out. He also writes the daily plug, OccupyFantasy.com, which has the top plays for DFS, lineup construction tips for different contests and different sites, favorite bets, favorite prize picks, everything you need in one digestible article. The Occupy model ranks every fighter, FanDuel, and DraftKings using our proprietary metrics. Nothing out there is like it. So go check it out, OccupyFantasy.com, and our lineup builder, which allows you to build up to 300 lineups now for MMA DFS on FanDuel and DraftKings. I mean, what more could you want? So I'm Brian Jester at Brian Jester FF. You can follow me on Twitter there. Follow us at Occupy Fantasy. For Jake, I'm Brian. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and enjoy UFC Austin.